Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We're sharing insights on the critical issues, policies, and regulations that could impact your beef cattle business. We'll also discuss how NCBA's educational programs can make a positive impact on your farm or ranch.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. One key issue that is always top of mind for producers is the cattle markets. And NCBA has long advocated for more transparency in the cattle and beef supply chain. Recently, Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack shared his thoughts on this important topic.
We want to make sure that when you have a relationship with a processor, even a large processor, that it's a fair relationship. And that's why we're looking at the Package Stockyards Act to make sure that the system is fair. Greater transparency as well of price. We don't have as many cash transactions as we need in the marketplace to be able to have confidence in that cash price. So we want to make sure that we encourage more discovery. Now, we've done a few studies at USDA. There's legislation that's pending in Congress that we obviously want to make sure that we don't skew it too far, don't require too much information that would potentially take away from the current system we have. But providing greater transparency and greater price discovery will allow us to be more confident in that cash market. And we obviously will work with the association to make sure that as we take steps, whether it's at the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Justice, that we're doing it in a way that's helpful. We're not trying to hurt this industry, we're trying to help.
From policy issues to regulatory overreach, there's plenty that can keep us cattle producers up at night. That doesn't even include the worries we have about things happening in our own backyards. We asked cattlemen and women from around the country what are some of the biggest challenges they see for the beef industry. Here's what they had to say.
A lot of them are the same issues that we've been facing for a lot of years. You know, I mean, we've been talking about packer consolidation, and we've been talking about environmental things, and sustainability and animal welfare have been the same issues that we've dealt with for several years. And it, you know, it always feels like it's going to be the end of the world, or real tough, or it's difficult for the industry. But I think there are things that we continue to overcome and persevere and just keep building on it and making it better.
It's always weather and markets, I guess. And in Montana, we've experienced a lengthy drought. So my thoughts right now are hovering around, is it going to rain this spring?
I'm most concerned about the waters of the U.S. again. It's reared its ugly head. We don't know where it's headed. I think a lot of us could be impacted by that. Plus there's others. But that one, to me, is on the radar more than anything else right now.
Well, yeah, we don't want our water rights shut down at all. That'd kill us. I mean, I got 7 Mile riverfront. I mean, it would put me out of business.
One of the biggest issues I'm afraid is the politics that are going on out there, where we're dealing with waters of the U.S., the 30 by 30 agenda, these federal lands issues. A lot of these cattle spend, I think it's 42% of the cow herds are on the federal lands, and that always seems to be a target. And the current administration seems to be identifying that, so we'll continue to work on that, and hopefully if we can get government interference out of that, there's some good times ahead in this cattle business.
Well, there seems to be an unrest out there about some market transparency and one thing and another, but you know, that's a trend that has been happening for the last 40 years. I don't know if there is a good answer to it, but I think there's going to be a lot of controversy on that. I think we have to continue to work through it and recognize that we are in a cyclical business, and we're in the part of the cycle where things are going to start getting better, and they have started to get better already.
When we ask cattlemen and women why they value NCBA, one of the most common answers is because of the work done on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And joining us now to talk more about these efforts is Mark Isley, a longtime volunteer leader from Wyoming. Mark, tell us a little bit about your background and your family's operation there in Wyoming.
Well, we're good to be here this morning. Happy to see you. We run a cow-calf and a stocker operation in the southeast corner there by Cheyenne. both public and private lands rancher, along with my family, my daughters, my son, my wife, and some dedicated employees.
Now, you've served as chair of NCBA's policy division. Tell us, or policy committee, I should say. Tell us a little bit about how policy work is created within NCBA.
It's very grassroots. It starts with individuals or grazing associations, whatever the case may be. They present that maybe to their state association. They bring it forward to our policy committees. We decide, make sure we don't have conflicting policies or similar policies, then present it to the board and the general membership to bring it. It's very grassroots.
You know, there is no shortage of policy issues and challenges out there, but what are some of the key priorities for NCBA as we look ahead to the next year?
Oh, I think the tax thing is probably still on our mind. We have to keep a lid on it. It's impossible to transition operations if you're not staying ahead of that tax game where they can literally put you out of business. Once again, market transparency, price discovery, very, very important. Burdensome overreach by the government regulations, especially out of some of the agencies. Those are probably the top three I think of, and the list is long and distinguished. But yeah, those are the ones that I think we're going to have to try to stay on top of right out the gate.
You've got a full plate, no doubt. And one last question, why is it so important for NCBA to have a strong membership base if we want to be effective in our work in Washington, D.C.?
It's real simple. It's strength in numbers. When we can show that we have a big membership, a strong membership, one that's dedicated and willing to really do the work, then we can go to the congressional delegations and say, these folks say, this is what we'd like to see happen, we'd like to move something forward. They'd step back, they take a look and say, yes, this is a very dedicated industry. Strength in numbers, I think that's really where it's at.
That's great. Thank you so much for your long time and continued service to our organization.
Pleasure's all mine. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, if you'd like to stay up to date on all the key issues and events from Washington, D.C., one way is by becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead on Cattlemen and Cattlemen, we'll tell you about a great opportunity for you to get reimbursed for attending cattle industry educational events. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Take advantage of the very best in Hereford genetics with the Sandhill Farms annual production sale Saturday, March 26th.
We've really tried to put a lot of carcass traits in our cattle. Ultimately, that's going to be a driver in price and profit.
I buy bulls from Sandhills because in the end, there's more money in my pocket selling the end product.
The Schultz family focuses on continuous genetic improvement of their Hereford cattle year after year.
I view everybody that sits in the seats at our sale as our boss. We want our genetics to get better every year. We've got to make the next set of bulls that the customer comes to purchase genetically better than the ones before.
Sandhill Farms, the brand that exceeds your goals. Find out more at the website sandhillfarms.com.
Welcome back. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association takes pride in being a leading source of producer education, and Cattlemen's College is famous for its stimulating and thought-provoking sessions that always draw a crowd. We asked cattlemen and women from across the country how they feel about the many educational opportunities that NCBA provides. Here are their thoughts.
You know, I've always taken that as a real opportunity, the education, attending events like Cattlemen's College. I've been fortunate enough to attend every one since they started that. And there's always some really good concepts in there. I feel like you don't have to pick up a very big idea to way offset the difference. And I quite honestly have always felt that I have financially benefited from coming to convention.
One of the neat opportunities going to Cattlemen's College is it really provides an opportunity for producers to hear not only what is being successful in the industry today, in the beef industry, but also look at some of the associated areas such as environmental stewardship, stockmanship. All those are type indicators that we can use in order to better ourselves, better our operations, improve profitability and help us toward long-term sustainability.
Well, like an old dog that I am, you're never too old to learn new things. And I like the BQA and the handling and the vaccines and the animal welfare stuff. It's just all good tools to have in your toolbox when you're trying to market these cattle.
The NCBA provides some of the greatest sessions that I've ever been to. I pick up more and learn more. The instructors are very good, and it's taught me a lot on picking genetics. And like I said, we pick up something every year because of it.
The education opportunities the NCBA provides at this venue are what I think are current trends in the industry. The various speakers we're seeing from a lot of the universities and from the various vendors keep us up to date on what they're doing and where the beef industry should be headed.
Cattlemen's College isn't NCBA's only option for producer education, and now you can get reimbursed for attending these other events. Here to tell us about this great deal is Michaela Klauser. She's Associate Director of Producer Education and Sustainability for NCBA. Michaela, what is the Ranchers Resilience Grant, and how does one go about applying for that grant?
Thanks, Kevin. So the grant provides funds to support producer attendance at industry events. You can head to ncba.org to learn more, and the application is there. So, and of course, always reach out to the producer education team to answer any questions.
So what are some of the other educational events that folks can use this grant for educational purposes?
So some of our NCBA programs include Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship, and numerous industry events such as breed association conventions and other national meetings such as the Beef Improvement Federation.
Sure, a lot of meetings and across the industry that this grant can be used towards. That's fantastic. You recently awarded a number of farms and ranches across the country with some very special BQA or Beef Quality Assurance Awards. Can you tell us a little bit about that award program and why BQA continues to be such an important program for all of us in the beef industry?
Absolutely. So the National BQA Award winners are outstanding beef and dairy producers and marketers. These producers demonstrate great animal care and handling on the day-to-day in their operation, as well as utilize BQA as a tool to continue their success. You know, BQA answers a lot of questions for both producers and consumers. From the producer side, they can utilize this as a tool to learn more about herd health, biosecurity. And then for consumers, you know, if a consumer knows that a producer is BQA certified, then they know that that producer prioritizes animal welfare and sustainability.
Which is critically important to today's consumers. One last question for you. Why is producer education so important to NCBA?
So a large part of NCBA's mission is to serve the entire cattle industry, and through producer education, we're certainly able to do that with events such as Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship. So we know that the industry is always changing and evolving, and this provides NCBA a unique opportunity to meet those changes, and through producer education, we're able to allow producers to be more successful and produce high quality beef.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for all you're doing to make these events available and now even more affordable. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin.
As Michaela mentioned, if you're interested in applying for the Ranchers Resilience Grant, just go to ncba.org and click on the Producers tab for all the details. This grant will reimburse you for attending educational events that could have a positive impact on your operation and your bottom line. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll discuss last weekend's beef promotional efforts at the Daytona Speedway. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We didn't just design the 6M tractors with you in mind, we designed them with you by our side. The new 6M tractors from John Deere, reimagined by you, for you. For a limited time, get 0% APR financing on qualifying 6 Series tractors and round balers. Experience the new 6M at your local John Deere dealer.
Beef was the big winner last weekend as the new NASCAR racing season got underway. The Federation of State Beef Councils partnered with the Daytona International Speedway to sponsor NASCAR's season opening race, the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. The president of the Daytona International Speedway shared his thoughts on the partnership between NASCAR and the beef industry.
We would like to thank America's beef farmers and ranchers for your continued support of Daytona International Speedway and the second running of the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. Just like the ranching community, NASCAR fans and drivers are deeply rooted in family, history, and tradition. We are family generational organizations and a slice of Americana. The future stars of NASCAR will take on the sport's biggest names in a 300-mile battle in Daytona to kick off the 2022 NASCAR Xfinity Series under the lights on February 19th. Perfect timing for a beef dinner to watch the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300.
And joining me now is Oklahoma cattleman Clay Bertram. Clay, you've been involved in this effort from the very beginning. I'm curious, what does it mean for the beef industry to be a part of the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300 and have that a part of NASCAR?
Well, Kevin, thanks for having me today. And for one of the most iconic taglines in the beef industry, Beef It's What's for Dinner, to partner with Daytona International Speedway the day before the iconic Daytona 500 is just a remarkable event for the beef farmers and ranchers to be a part of the Daytona 500. And this is our second year to do this. And last year we learned so much in a short amount of time, and to come back on February 19th and to be a part of this event is just remarkable for us to be there.
So in addition to the race itself, I mean, what are the other activities that were available to have beef producers connect with race fans there at the race?
Well, you know, race fans are beef eating consumers just like each one of us on our farm and ranch, and we've got cooking competitions. We have a huge midway booth. You know, these race fans come in, this is their week-long vacation. They're there for speed weeks, as they call it, and they're there, and we're just going to be able to sell our wholesome, nutritious beef product to those race fans and the people that come in just for the two-day race events. And us as beef farmers and ranchers are going to be there to show them how that wholesome, nutritious product is there for them on these race days.
So it obviously happens in Florida, but are there benefits to other states in terms of what happens there in Daytona?
Yeah, this is a part of our, 44 qualified state beef councils are all a part of this. We couldn't do this project without our 44 state beef council event partners, and we have over 700 state board members with those partners. We couldn't do this without their partnership.
So Clay, you've served in leadership positions in the Federation of State Beef Councils, and I'm curious, what is your opinion about the role both the Federation has played as well as the beef checkoff in the ongoing success of the beef industry?
You know, we've learned this past year that the checkoff is a true success story for what we do for our farmers and ranchers. For that $1 investment returns an $11.91 return. And we showed that this last year, that we have an overwhelming success out in the country. And this, the iconic race, is just one of our many messages that we've done. We've been on Hallmark this last year. We've got a sustainability message. We've got beef in the early years with our young beef eaters. So this is just one of our many messages that we're pushing among the Federation and what we're doing as beef eating consumers.
Incredible work resulting in the highest demand in 30 years, right?
That's right, and we've pushed it through to all of our producers out there, and we thank each and every one of them for the work they do on a daily basis so that we can continue to do our work in the Federation and our qualified state beef council partners.
And thank you for all you do. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Now be sure to keep an eye on Cattlemen to Cattlemen over the next couple of weeks as we bring you great behind-the-scenes action from the Daytona International Speedway. And if you want to learn about some of the other great ways checkoff dollars are being used to grow beef demand, then check out the website beefitswhatsfordinner.com. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll discuss the important partnership between corn and cattle. Plus, we'll talk about the latest beef export numbers and examine the opportunities for the year ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In the world of cattle vaccines, when you see fewer reactions, you'll notice healthier cattle and higher profits too. Because sometimes good protection is about what you don't see. Protect your productivity with cattle vaccines from Merck Animal Health. Proven to cause fewer reactions. You'll like what you see. Our trusted portfolio is just one more way Merck Animal Health works for you. Talk to your veterinarian and visit cattlefriendlyvaccines.com to learn more.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
The importance of exports to the U.S. beef industry has been well documented, and the staff and leadership of the U.S. Meat Export Federation help ensure demand for our product overseas. Joining us now to discuss these efforts is Dan Hallstrom. He's president and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Dan, 2021 was an absolute record year for U.S. beef exports. Tell us a little bit about that success and what drove that success.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. When the stats come in finalized next week, we're going to be at a record. We're going to be up 15% on the volume, and the value is going to come in at about $10.5 billion globally. And I think it's really that the story here is about global broad-based growth. It's not any one country that's contributing. It's China, it's Japan, it's Korea, it's Mexico, it's Central America, it's South America. There's a lot of markets adding value here and rebounding from the pandemic from the last 2 years. So I think in that respect, it's really hitting on all cylinders. It's the eating at home, the retail growth booming like it has been in the U.S., booming around the world. But the e-commerce platforms, the online, the delivery platforms, the pickup platforms, it's growing in the U.S., but in places like Korea, Korea is the highest participant in e-commerce in the world. So this is a lot of the growth that we're seeing. And the really exciting thing is that we're still struggling in Asia today with COVID, and food service is still struggling. There's going to be a little bit of a rebound in food service, we think, as we go forward as well.
So let's talk 2022. Can we expect these continued trends to continue?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty, as you know, out there. But our forecast is for growth, a new record in 2022. We're looking at 4 or 5% growth. So albeit at a slower rate, but still growing. And once again, there's every reason to expect that there's going to be a lot of countries contributing.
We've had some challenges, though, this last year, particularly in getting products to and from these markets, right? Tell us a little bit about that and what progress is being made in that area.
Yeah, the global supply chain is really challenged, and it has been now for probably close to a year. We're having frozen cargo on the beef side delayed. We're having chilled cargo delayed, which is very problematic. We have a reputation as a reliable global supplier, and that's a little bit at risk today. That's the bad news. The good news is that there's a lot more focus on this issue. We're getting this recent announcement out of USDA with Oakland is key for us because in our chilled cargo, a lot of the chilled cargo, chilled beef out of the U.S., it goes to Asia, usually goes out of Oakland. Why? It's the last port of call before you go to Japan and Korea. So this announcement of the expanded area for the terminal, more movement, more area to get the containers moved around was music to our ears because that is probably our most strategic port on the chilled side.
So tell us about some emerging markets. What markets offer the most potential for growth in your opinion?
Yeah, I think this is always one of the things that at USMEF we're focused on. While on one side we want to make hay where the sun shines in some of the established markets, we're always talking about how do we develop some new regions. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Central America, for one. We have a CAFTA agreement in the region. We're on a level playing field, and we're really starting to see U.S. beef take off in places like Guatemala, El Salvador, and Panama. South America, Colombia, we have a free trade agreement with Colombia. Colombia started out 6-7 years ago primarily a pork market, U.S. pork market, but now we're starting to see that diversification into the beef side as well. So this is how markets start, and now you add up the business, and you're talking about several $100 million in two regions that were virtually nothing 5 years ago. Another part of the world that we're excited about is Africa as a whole. huge market for beef variety meats. In fact, beef variety meats globally will be over 10% of our sales in 2021. So of our 10 billion, over $1 billion is beef variety meats. And this is tongues going to Japan, it's livers going to Egypt, it's tripe going to Latin America. So it's adding value to the carcass.
And the beautiful thing about that is it really diversifies our risk because we're not solely dependent on one product or one market, right?
Exactly right. It's no different than your retirement fund. You don't want all your eggs in one basket. Having multiple countries growing at the same time is very healthy for the U.S. beef industry.
Well, I'm sure no two international markets are alike, and I'm curious, can you share with our viewers what are the kinds of things that USMEF does in order to both identify and then address the very unique needs of these disparate markets across the world?
Yeah, I'd say the two biggest things that USMEF's involved in is, number one, education, telling our story. We go in and we research a market, but at the same time, we're telling our story. And it's a great story, and it's a story very unique to a lot of other supply sources around the world. Brazilian beef production, Australian beef production, Indian buffalo meat production. I mean, you're talking about completely different stories. Yeah. And by the way, we don't want to be the cheapest player around, so we're talking about the value side of it and the experience side. So that's number one. Number two is, when we're in these markets, we're always developing relationships with the trade. Importers, distributors, retailers, food service, the list goes on. So this is not something that happens overnight. This is a long-term venture. And in a place like Japan, we've been doing it for almost 50 years. And in a place like Durban, South Africa, we've been doing it for 3. But I'll guarantee you that a place like Africa is going to look much more important in the years to come. So yeah, this is what we're focused on each and every day.
Very exciting news. I'm sure we'll be talking with you more throughout the year, but in the meantime, please thank your entire staff for all they do to add value to the U.S. beef industry.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
To learn more about the work of the U.S. Meat Export Federation and its efforts to enhance U.S. beef demand overseas, just visit their website. That's usmef.org. Corn and corn growers have long played an important role in the beef industry. Russell Nemitz has more on this important partnership.
In the U.S. beef cattle industry, there are a lot of important relationships that get us onto the road of profitability. And one of those relationships is with our friends in the corn industry. And with us on today's program is John Linder from the National Corn Growers Association. John caught up with you this year here in Houston, Texas at the Cattle Industry Convention and right here as part of the NCBA trade show. Let's talk about that important relationship between you folks as corn growers and the U.S. cattle industry and all those producers across America.
We're really looking forward to those opportunities where we can really lock arms and really go after the issues that we both face. It's, over our history, we've had a little bit of separation of issues, but boy, today's environment, we are lockstep. There are so many commonalities between us, and so it's really great to have that opportunity for cattle and corn to come together and work together on all the things we face that are so common to us.
Well, usually when the corn industry has a good year, that means good things for the U.S. beef cattle industry as well, because that's allowing our cattle producers to raise even more high quality beef, which of course is in hot demand, not just here in this country, but around the world.
Oh, we love value added. And boy, do we love beef. There's no better thing to put on your plate. I'm not gonna put whole corn on my plate and eat it. I want beef. So yeah, it's such an opportunity in this marketplace, and we need to help facilitate that so that we have that strength and that longevity in that marketplace.
Let's talk about how sustainability, that is a huge word right now in the entire agricultural industry, whether it's for corn growers or beef cattle producers. Walk us through the sustainability story and why it's so important.
I'll kick it off. Everyone needs to be willing to accept that sustainability is a three-legged stool. We have the environmental piece. We've got the economic for us growers, such an important piece. But there's a social aspect. And that portrays back to the consumer. And we really need to be able to tell the sustainable corn production story and what a good story we have. But we need to push it out through our value chain through beef. We did our work. We have our Corn Sustainability Advisory Group, and we've got a great report at www.ncba.org www.ncga.com under/sustainability. You'll find that full report, and it's a really good read. It talks about where we came from in the period of 1980 to 2015, but we've got those goals out there for 2030. We want to use less land per bushel by 12%. We want to use 13% less energy. We want to reduce our input or our emissions to the atmosphere by 13%. We want to reduce land erosion by another 13%. And we've got a great goal for better, efficient use of water by 15%, all by 2030.
Well, and I think farmers and ranchers across America are starting to hear that message loud and clear, that consumers and others, they want to hear our positive story, how we raise our food from the actual food producer, don't they?
They deserve choice, and we need to be that choice. And so, yes, we got to get our story out there so we are the chosen product of the consumer. And it goes around the world, right? Because I like to share with folks that while we're sleeping here in the States tonight, somewhere in the world, somebody's thinking about corn or a corn value-added product like beef and thinking, where am I going to source it? Well, it might as well be the U.S. We've got the supply, the best products when sustainably produced.
Well, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Again, the National Corn Growers Association's John Linder, one of the many attendees here at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show this year here in Houston, Texas.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about the National Corn Growers Association and their efforts, just visit their website. That's ncga.com. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll introduce you to another regional winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Weeds will rob me of my investments. The weeds are not palatable to cows. They will not eat them, or if they do eat them, some of them may be toxic. So there's a return on investment by allowing there to be more grass available to be grazed by the cattle.
Cattlemen and women are dedicated to managing their land and cattle in a sustainable way. They want to leave a legacy for future generations. For more than 30 years, the Environmental Stewardship Award has worked to honor these caretakers of the land and to share their stories. To find out more and to learn how you can nominate a farm or ranch for the Environmental Stewardship Award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org.
Cattle producers can face all kinds of challenges when it comes to protecting the environment. But they all have a common goal: leaving the land better than they found it. Today, we're taking a look at the 2021 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's visit the Region 3 award recipients from Iowa.
We need to leave this world better than how we found it. It's just the way it should be. I'm Justin Robbins with Robbins Land and Cattle here in Scranton, Iowa. I farm with my wife Lacey and son McKinley. We have a cow-calf operation and we raise row crops. I grew up right across the river. My wife is from the other side of the county and she grew up raising some cattle with her family. Bringing those two ideas together have been interesting at times, but it gives us two different views to be able to talk through and work through some things. Taking care of the land has always been a priority at Robbins Land and Cattle. When the water leaves our farm, it goes into the creeks and the tributaries and it hits the Raccoon River, and from the Raccoon River it goes downstream and ends up in the Des Moines area. Everything runs downhill, so I want clean water as it comes by my cows from upstream, so I want to make sure that the water downstream is clean when it leaves here. Our cows do not get in the river and just hang out and muddy the waters. In our pastures, we keep them fenced out of the water because we want to make sure that it's not just us that we're thinking about, know, there's millions of people downstream that we need to help protect as well.
In early 2020, we started an online store to sell our beef. This gives us an opportunity to tell our story and how we operate our farm. People ask us questions all the time about how we treat the animals, what they're getting fed, do we pet them, do we name them? They're fascinated by everything we have going on here. We absolutely love questions. The more we can educate, the better we are.
People that buy our steaks and get beef from us, I want them to understand that it brings joy to our hearts to know that they are eating a tasty, healthy product that was raised with care and love.
Sustainability means to me that we want to leave this land better than when we got it. It's something you do every day. It's not just a once-a-year thing. It's every day you're trying to make something better. We haven't reached the end, we never will. If you want to be the best, you have to continue to improve every day.
I am proud of how far we've come. I was just telling my son McKinley, I believe I finally hit that point where I think I can own the fact that we are doing things right. And it's taken a lot of years to get where we want to be, but we truly love what we do.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Gelbvieh cattle are popular in several countries around the world, including the U.S. Reporter Brian Baxter introduces us to some producers who rely on Gelbvieh genetics to help improve the performance and the profitability of their herds.
Gelbvieh and Balancer cattle are well known throughout the beef industry for their maternal strengths and superior growth. With traits like more pounds of calf weaned, added fertility, greater cow herd longevity, and heavier carcass weights, Gelbvieh and Balancer cattle offer genetics that work for producers from Virginia to Wyoming.
Gelbvieh cattle originally came over from Germany in the 1970s, and that was about the same time that the American Gelbvieh Association was started. Throughout the years, the Gelbvieh breed has been very progressive, and in the early 2000s, the American Gelbvieh Association started registering the hybrid cattle of Gelbvieh and Angus, and we call those a balancer.
Registered balancers are a minimum of 25% Gelbvieh up to 75% Gelbvieh, with the offsetting percentage being either red Angus or black Angus. Balancer is also a more generic term for feeder and for crossbred commercial cattle, and I think it's a very appropriate terminology because they bring a balance of traits to commercial producers, capitalizing on the maternal productivity and efficiency that's inherent in the Gelbvieh breed, also bringing in some of the stronger traits from Angus and Red Angus. I think there's a renewed interest in crossbreeding with many producers, and Gelbvieh has a lot to offer in that regard as far as hybrid vigor and also breed complementarity. They cross very well with the British breeds, so you get the best of both worlds. You get the strength of Gelbvieh, strength of whatever breed you're crossbreeding them with. People who run Gelbvieh and Balancer influence females love those cows. And then on the feed yard side of it, these Balancer cattle are great feeder cattle.
These ranching families were quick to see the benefits of adding Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics to their herds, which gives them the added performance that comes with crossbreeding.
Heterosis is one of the cheapest things that we can do in the beef industry to add value to any operation. I'm not a big fan of straight bred cattle in any aspect. Every breed brings traits to the table. In looking at a female operation, Gelbvieh brings the strongest traits on the female side maternally, the ability to put calves on the ground that'll grow, cows that'll have a lot of longevity. In the situation where that we don't have adequate feed and we can't maintain a great body condition score, those cattle will breed right back. They'll give their heart to feed that calf, but then turn around and give us the next calf for next year.
So what heterosis is going to do is no matter what breeds we cross, you're going to get increased calf vitality, increased growth components, and an environmental adaptability. Different breeds are going to excel in different traits. There clearly are very specific reasons why we want to make sure that we have Gelbvieh as one of the key components in our composites.
Well, we're running the Gelbvieh balancer bulls that the hybrid vigor that you get through the crossbreeding really helps, and the balancer bulls seem to do that real well for us.
Once you introduce Gelbvieh, you're going to get that hybrid vigor, that growth that is going to push those cattle to the most extent that they can become. And we've tried straight red Angus before, and the Gelbvieh side is just going to give you that much more growth. The maternal side, not only on the cows, you're going to get the maternal side, but you're going to get extra milk that you're going to get that you wouldn't see in some of the other breeds.
The most overlooked trait, in my opinion, in the commercial industry is longevity. And it doesn't matter whether you're buying a car or putting together a factory that we're going to call a cow. If you can amortize that out over 14 or 15 years instead of 8 years, look at the return on investment. And our Gelbvieh cattle are solid. They're the oldest cow in our herds, no matter how we use them in any composite.
And as with other breeds, a strong association stands behind these families, serving them with a variety of programs that can help improve their herd performance and their marketing options.
The American Gelbvieh Association has always been very commercially focused, so not only do Gelbvieh and balancer cattle offer the traits that work for commercial cattle producers, but the American Gelbvieh Association also has tools and services to help those commercial cattle producers meet today's modern industry demands. Those tools and services include our Balancer Edge and our Feeder Finder program, which help commercial producers to market their feeder calves.
I just like to say that the Gelbvieh cattle have been a true asset to this operation. The genetics that they've brought to the table, the ability to utilize those genetics and to be able to set up a little unique system, a niche in a market that the Gelbvieh and the balancer operation has brought to this farming operation, and the opportunities that it's brought to us to meet people and to help the beef industry.
To learn more about the Gelbvieh breed, visit the American Gelbvieh Association website at gelbvieh.org. Sustainability is a critical issue in the beef industry today, and with me now is Dr. Phil Rinker of Elanco Animal Health to talk about some of the exciting products we have in the effort to improve beef industry sustainability. Dr. Rinker, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The environmental issue is a big issue in the beef cattle industry. Give me your perspective.
Yeah, it certainly is. And really, the things that beef producers are concerned about are the same things that almost every industry is concerned about, right? It comes down to land use and nutrient management, water use, and emissions at the end of the day.
And specifically, what is Elanco doing to help producers in this quest for improved sustainability?
Yeah, sure. So we actually have a lot of efforts underway. A few examples of things that we have going on right now is we have a partnership with Ducks Unlimited that we announced last year, where we're actually helping reseed wetlands in Kansas. We actually just launched yesterday a new effort from Elanco related to sustainability. It's a sustainability engine for producers to help them calculate their environmental footprint.
Wow.
It's called UpLook, so look for information on that here at NCBA.
Okay.
And see what that's about. And then finally, we have our core business, which is really around the products and services that we offer and the innovation that Elanco continues to bring to market.
Absolutely. You also, I understand, have a new product coming to market called Experior, and I'd be curious to learn more about what that product is and how that product can help us improve our overall sustainability and environmental footprint.
You bet. So Experior really fits well into this discussion because it is labeled for the reduction of ammonia gas emissions per pound of live and hot carcass weight in beef, steers, and heifers. So it's a unique label that we have on this product. We're actually just now bringing it to market with full force this year, and we're pretty excited about it. It's labeled to be fed for the last 14 to 91 days before slaughter, and we're excited about the impact they could have on producers and their efforts around sustainability.
That's really exciting. Thank you all for your commitment to our industry and for your continual quest for innovative products to help us on our journey. We appreciate that.
Our pleasure. If you'd like more information on any of that stuff, you can certainly go to experiorbeef.com
or an initiative that kind of wraps that all up from Elanco for producers is elancoleaveitbetter.com.
Outstanding. Thank you for your time, Dr. Rinker.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Rinker with Elanco Animal Health. And remember, experiorbeef.com for more information.
For commercial cow-calf producers, crossbreeding with Gelbvieh and Balancer is the smart, reliable, and profitable choice. Gelbvieh and Balancer females offer maternal superiority through increased fertility, greater longevity, and more pounds of calf weaned per cow exposed. In the feed yard, Balancer cattle deliver increased performance, improved feed efficiency, and excellent carcass merit. Balancer adds the pounds, make the grade, and deliver the value. Gelbvieh and Balancer, the smart, reliable, and profitable choice. Find out more at the website gelbvieh.org.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
Each year, I'm amazed at the speakers we have at the Cattle Industry Convention. Russell Nemitz took a few snaps with former NFL quarterback and broadcaster Joe Theismann, who was a big hit with a crowd in Houston.
Well, each year the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show is lucky enough to have inspirational speakers like Joe Theismann, former Super Bowl champion quarterback for the Washington Redskins, and a whole lot more. Now a television sportscaster and broadcaster. And Joe, it was fun to have you this year here in Houston at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show. Before I talk about the experience, talk about your message to these cattle producers.
Well, first of all, I want to thank them because to me, I look at the cattle producers. I think of the Great Pyramids in Egypt. They're built on a great foundation, and the cattle industry is something that this nation is built on. And it's the foundation. It holds everything together. It's so important to, I think, everybody in this country. And so I wanted to thank them for what they do and let them know that they're appreciated for all the things that they do. And we all know we've gone through different changes and things are happening in our lives, but they continue to do an unbelievable job of taking care of people in this country.
Joe, do you think sports and being in the cattle business are a lot alike? I mean, there's the ups and downs, there's the good times and bad, and then there's those challenging times, much like sports and much like a lot of what you went through with your injury that we just have to persevere through.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book called How to Be a Champion Every Day, and it's based off the world of football, the world of sports actually, the world of business and our own lives, and how they parallel one another. And when you think about attitude being so vitally important, having to deal with the challenges that we face, you think about the goals we want to set for ourselves. You think of the relationships. In business they call it customer service, but it's really people-people relationships. And how they have to work together as a team. And then motivating. How do you get up every day and do that job that you need to do? How do you get excited about what you have to do? And so those basic principles are the way I try and live my life. And I noticed them in both business and like I say, in sports. And so they all parallel one another in that regard. So there's a great similarity between them.
Now, you were telling this audience here in Houston that you yourself have a little bit of an egg operation back home in Virginia. Maybe just walk us through. You're laughing, but in all seriousness, it's always good to hear inspirational and famous guys like Joe Theismann know they also appreciate agriculture.
And you know why I'm laughing, right? Because I told you the story. So anyway, I have a farm in Northern Virginia, okay? I have roughly 100 acres. Now, I didn't want to insult any of the cattle farmers here or the cattle ranchers here because that's probably a front yard for most of them. But I do have cattle. I have about 30 head of cattle. I've got about 17 cows now and about 10 calves. And I just love it. I mean, I just love getting out with them. I love being around them. I love watching, the mama cows and the calves. And I love the calves to me are the most curious, innocent animals in the world. I mean, you can walk up to them and they'll stand and all of a sudden they'll just take off and jump away. And it's like, man, that's the coolest thing in the world. But we raise cattle there. They're Angus. Yeah. And it's just fun. I got 1984, I got the farm, the ranch. whatever it is, I got it. And to me, it's a great sanctuary to get to. It's a great release of pressure.
Listening to you describe, those baby calves coming into the world, is it a lot like rookie football players coming from college in the NFL?
The rookies stand a lot better. They're not quite as uncertain on their feet when they get born, but yeah, they're a little bit like it. They're green as could be. They have to learn, everything. I mean, if you're a calf, and you got to learn to be a cow. If you're a rookie, you got to learn to be a professional in so many different ways.
Well, and you're a professional in a lot of different ways. Last question. You were just telling me before we started this interview, you actually took a spin around the ginormous NCBA trade show and actually watched some of those cattle handling demonstrations at the live cattle handling session. What'd you think of that trade show?
I think the trade show is absolutely incredible. I mean, anybody gets a chance to come here. If you're not here, if you're not a part of the association, you should be, number one. But then you really want to take the time, and it's not just an hour. I had a chance to sort of move through it quickly, but I wanted to spend a lot of time and look at all the different equipment, all the different elements that go into what really the trade show is about and what the cattle industry is all about. I just love to learn. I have a favorite saying: the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. And today I learned a lot. I learned number one, I can't cut a cow out of a herd, and secondly, those riders are a whole lot better than I am.
Well, we just appreciate you being part of this year's Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Again, former Super Bowl champion Joe Theismann for the Washington Redskins.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit YouTube and subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page. Not only will you find the current week's show, you can check out all the past educational segments and producer profiles from all across the country. So be sure to subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page on YouTube. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.